Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the M365 Show. Today, my guest is Vladimir Stefanovic, and he is 20 years plus in IT. He is an Azure MVP, Microsoft certificate trainer, works on large scale Azure architects, and he is a governance specialist. So, yeah, thank you for being here, Vladimir. What why did you start with infrastructure and cloud?
Yeah, before we start, thank you for inviting me, Mirko. And that is actually a long story. So you mentioned I'm 20 plus years in IT, yes, and I'm one of the old school guys, even though I do not feel that old. But I started as a guy from the neighborhood who was installing operating systems, setting up printers, Wi-Fi networks, burning DVDs. Actually, CDs. DVD came very late. So worked from the very low level in IT, which is, I think, quite important today, which new generations are missing. They're immediately jumping to the cloud, jumping to some stuff today, AI, so that they do not know basics, what is behind, and so on. But actually, my generation, we started very low and start moving up. And at some point in my career, I moved to more serious environments, servers, and so on. Actually, infrastructure. That was I was more familiar with that, and somehow cloud came up as a good successor of that infrastructure. When I started working with cloud, that was let's say in early ages, not from the time where Azure was in a service model. Uh, I actually started 2015, 16, something like that. I would not know exactly when I was in Serbia at that point, without that many opportunities, many projects, more infra oriented workloads, and that is how I ended up over time and was climbing slowly to the position where I am right now.
Mm. And yeah, you're an MVP and MCT, and yeah, I think MVP is something you must be still excited what you're doing after 20 years in IT. How still you what still is exciting you today to do this?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'm a MCT from the 2014. So right now, when I say 2014 and right now it's to 2026, so 12 full years, I'm Microsoft certified trainer for the couple of rounds. I was also regional lead for the uh, Serbia, actually Balkan countries, and a little bit more here in the Netherlands. And from the 2019 Microsoft Azure MVP, which is actually when I became Microsoft Azure MVP in a world where only 500 MVPs for Microsoft Azure. So actually, that was relatively early, but yeah, my focus was completely there, and it's still exciting. Of course, not that uh, high excitement like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So that is expected because you're getting more familiar with what is there. Sometimes more busier than you do not have that enough time to be that excited. But yeah, still it's uh, very good to be a Microsoft Azure MVP. Actually, Microsoft MVP. So my category is just filling into the Azure because you can talk with product groups, you can talk with other MVP peers, you can share knowledge on a higher level, you can share your pain, you can share ideas with product groups. That doesn't mean they will always take it in consideration because one vote is not enough for a lot of stuff. But yeah, yesterday I had quite a good conversation with the Firewall, Azure Firewall product team because I was very loud last time when we discussed about something that doesn't work. So we had very constructive discussion. So that is something that will uh, pump your ego a little bit when you have chance to talk with someone who is in a high position, even you know that, yeah, okay, they will not fix that tomorrow because that is quite a bigger environment than we can think about. But yeah, so that is still interesting.
Mm. And we will talk today a little bit about the governance. Was there a specific moment where you realized governance become critical at scale?
Uh, that is like if you want to build house and you start think about your foundation 3 months later, but you will first start thinking about tiles and what kind of in your bedroom, or what will be your kitchen, or what will be the color of your room or office or whatever. So, and unfortunately, still, even we are living 2026, still a lot of companies start doing some stuff. Doesn't matter how they're bigger. And that is a pattern that you can see in startups, in SMB companies, in mid-size, in enterprises. They will start doing something, and few years later, depends on how growth is big. Few years later, they decided, oh, we cannot do that anymore in this way. What we need to do right now. So when we talk about governance, but in overall planning, you need to start that from the day one. So when we start building something, we need to have as much as possible things on a whiteboard, on a paper that we can start planning. That doesn't matter if you did something that is not based, build on a base practices, or aligned with some standards that you cannot do that later. In most cases, you can, but working on a brownfield or live production environment is more complex tomorrow than if we start planning today. So that is something that I spoken last week on a cloud summit, how we can approach that one, where we need to pay attention, how we need to think about cloud adoption framework, well architected framework, landing zones, where to pay attention, and what things we can change later, adapt later, and a little bit. So yeah, we need to start like thinking about that on a day zero.
Mm. Yeah, it's something I have a little bit prepared for this podcast session, and I see you often say fail. Yeah, the systems fail because of early decisions. Um, what kind of decision are most dangerous in your perspective?
It really there is no any pattern. It really depends on what is the nature of the business, and what is the environment, what kind of environment you have right now, what you want to have in the future. So a lot of questions will be on the table before we start thinking about. So in one of the previous company where I used to work, we had actually for every new project 3 to 6 months of workshops with the client until we put something on the table as a potential solution for to discuss with the customer. So uh, if you choose a wrong networking model, if you choose just a simple one subscription and we will put everything there, or two subscriptions, and then we will start growing, or we got some investors that will fill money, and then we will grow very fast, then okay, how we can do that. And the problem, it's not really from on the technical side as well. So yeah, we can fix a lot of stuff. Still, there are a lot of things that we cannot fix. In Azure, you cannot move all of those resources. You cannot easily migrate or something. But do not talk about technical side. What if we can do that? We want to redesign everything, but we are growing too fast that we cannot do that. We do not have enough time. And you know how things works. If we are in a business and we need more sites or more features or whatever, then that is always priority higher than cleaning up stuff, doing maintenance, and those kind of things. And then you can easily be in a position that you know what needs to be done, but you do not have enough time. You do not have enough hands available to do work on that, to do that, and then you need to just continue with growth, and that happens. I felt that a few times on my project that we started on a low scale. We thought that will be big, that's good, but then we got in a running train that was running very fast, like Japanese silver bullets trains, and then we cannot get out, we cannot bring anyone in because we do not have enough time, and
Mm.
then that is a problem.
Okay, it's a time problem. Um, i- but why do companies, yeah, I or start with Azure governance, yeah, until most usually it's too late.
Uh, that is not something that you can explain easily to C level because majority of people do not see a big benefit of that. So if I try to sell uh, to C level, okay, we need to work, I don't know, 3 months with three FTE full time engineers on a proper governance for the our infrastructure. So set it up landing zones, govern and in a proper way. Everything will be automated and so on. Or we will build three new apps or three new sites or whatever that
Mm,
will start generating money.
mm,
Then business will easily move to the things that will start generating money.
mm,
So it's not easy to explain, but that is some pattern that you will see, that you will definitely see everywhere and always. It's the only one difference between environments is, do we have two engineers, three engineers, or 10? If we have
mm,
10, maybe we can reshuffle a little bit of their times,
mm,
log 2 hours per engineer weekly, and then we can start moving forward a little bit. Because if you want to do something that is not directly visible, then it's very hard to justify to level who will be in decision mode for that and who's not technical level. So the that is something that I uh, hearing all the time on the conferences where on a last year I was on Microsoft Ignite, was on Microsoft Boot for 3 days, and in the middle of the center of the expo for Ignite, 10, 15,000 people. I was there and I was talking with people, and 70% of them were in that, more or less in that position.
mm. Um, what could be first warning signals of I call it cloud chaos?
Cost at the first place can trigger. And no, at the first place, definitely will be some security issue. And the second place will be cost. Because if you have security issue, you have some breach that will affect sometimes business. Business
Mm,
can stop completely. If
mm,
you have cost issue, you will pay more, but that will you will continue. So to operate. But those two things can be triggers for upper management to think a little bit about that if they are very deaf on all those questions that they're getting over the time from the engineering level. So definitely those two things I would put in the top two. Maybe we can discuss about third, fourth, fifth place, but security breach. We got a lot of clients over my career when they had a security breach and a cost definitely. So if I can save you 1,000 monthly, which is 12,000 yearly, then probably you will pay my fee to do assessment and help you. Doesn't matter if that my fee is 3 or 4,000, whatever. So you can see benefit that you will start saving money. But if I tell you we will optimize that, so then you can work a little bit more efficient. You will
wow.
prevent some things and so on. And that will cost some money, but you will get nothing immediately. That is sometimes very hard to justify.
Well, I think it's yeah, it's hard to explain to a lot of people. Um, they only see. I think often I see when companies start with a cybersecurity insurance, then they first start seeing, oh, I can save money, and they don't understand that they are losing. I don't know, they can lose a lot, but what they definitely lose is the trust of the clients when they get a security breach. And this costs a lot. I think, yeah, trust is something built over
Yeah,
years.
if you're a provider, if you're MSP or whatever, and you're providing some services and you do something wrong, and that can they can map security issues directly to you, then you will definitely lose trust. But also companies, they have their internal ITs. They're not IT companies. They have internal IT. It's always easier to justify security stuff. Doesn't matter what is the cost of those security projects, things, whatever. It's way easier to justify than justify a proper governance layer, proper landing zones, proper role-based access control, proper things around uh, that we can do, and we do not really need any special security measures. So if you do a proper way on a infrastructure and architecting layer that you implement just the basic stuff that definitely should be involved everywhere, you will decrease for 70-80% potential uh, scape landscape where you can get some attack. So that definitely that one, and also as I mentioned, cost. So that those two triggers will always be on on a first to place if you ask me for something.
It's all about the money. Um, what would you say separates good Azure networking from a bad Azure networking?
Again, really depends on what is the workload, so that there is no one simple answer that can fit all. So there is no solution that can fit all. If you have a hybrid environment, that is completely different approach than if you have just a local environment. Local, I mean, just a cloud environment. If you have hybrid, then you need to think about a lot of interconnectivity between your locations. Doesn't matter. So right now, it's really important to think about how many locations we have, how many locations we will have, what kind of networking needs to be between those locations. What is the management that we need to put in place? So what I see, not that often, but I see that people will be, oh, we do not want to use Azure Firewall, we do not use Virtual One, regardless of pros and cons. We will use the classic, we will manage, we will do that. That's okay. And then at a certain point, they will find out that they do not have a proper people in house who can manage that. So if you have a proper people, you have a bunch of network engineers, architects who understand how Azure works, then you can manage NVA. So actually, the on-prem stuff in cloud. If you do not have and you have on the other side a very knowledgeable Azure infra guy who understands networking, he can manage everything if you go to past services. Then, how is important connectivity between offsite location and cloud? It's very important to be up and running all the time. If it's not, how long we can survive without that? So then, question: will we go with express route or just VPNs? Or a lot of questions needs to be answered, needs to be on a table before we start planning something. If you have just cloud workload, then uh, you have even more options. Then you can use AVNM, you can use just hub and spoke. If you have less than 10 networks, that is super easy to manage in any kind of those approaches. So it really depends what we need to do. And what and always my first question always will be, what is the end goal for everything? What is the end goal? What we want to achieve? So not where we will start, what we want to achieve. Then we can start thinking about our starting point. And actually, in a few hours, we can map what we need. And that is the first breaking point in discussion. So if you want to achieve, uh, I don't know, you want to have fully scalable, fully automated network, sustainable, self-healing, and everything around, and you have nothing at the moment. So you plan to move to that direction to cloud, then it's way easier because we will build everything from scratch. But if you already have something and that is not built properly, then we need to any that is production workload. Then we need to restructure everything aside or in parallel, then move workload, plan a lot of stuff, and then at that point, that is the first moment where things can start in discussion breaking, not technically, because we still didn't touch anything. What is the goal? And then we can, based on goal, plan everything.
Mm. Um, yeah, you are also for a little bit deep dive in governance and frameworks. You are also a CAF, WAF expert. What will you say, or what parts organizations misunderstand here often?
Mm, ah, that is very interesting question, and there is no that easy answer. Yeah, I collaborated with the latest CAF version, but what is there? Actually, CAF is pretty well uh, done, quite solid framework. I like to say, and I'm saying that do not get as a holy grail. Use that as a best practice. Take the best out of that. There are certain things that you should follow completely as much as possible. There are certain things that you can change and you should change if your environment is different. But the the biggest problem, definitely what I see and seeing, and probably will continue seeing that all over the time, is that people think that a proper design and a proper implementation is easy if they just follow documentation. So even though we know, okay, I want to build house, I need foundation, I know where my rooms will be, and okay, we will do that, but still I don't know what I need to do for the proper ground, and what is the type of soil. Do I need to do some enhancement? What? So that is it. They will take a look. Like if you want to do something at your home, you don't want to pay for any expert for that, but you will go to find YouTube video how to fix something, and probably you will fix, no problem. But you don't know if that is good, if that is a proper fix, uh, or a lot of things around. The pretty same thing happens. Yeah, that is done. That will work. You can find automation. You can find a lot of videos on YouTube, a lot of online trainings. You will get certain level of knowledge. But
Mm.
when we start touching points that are not explained in that video, then you're in dark.
Yeah.
And I actually had that a few months back when I explained to one of the my colleagues from Serbia, explained to him and how things work, and he stopped following me after 5 minutes, because after fifth minute uh, of my explanation,
Mm,
all those information were not in any document. That
mm,
that was based on experience,
mm,
and that is a quite big difference where their experience will start adding value.
mm,
So getting that is easy cake because a lot of things are documented. Is a weakest point at some point. So question is not if that will be. Question is when that will be uh, a big problem for us. If we start growing, of course. If you have two virtual machines, one a network or one website, no problem, that will work. So that's easy. But we talk
so
about enterprise.
awesome. I have a little bit look at, yeah, Azure groups and so on, and especially when talk about governance, and that's I say buzzword, policy driven governance. Uh, would you say, yeah, it's realistic or it's still too hard for many teams?
Uh, Actually, it could be hard, but can be very easy because if you are proficient uh, with automation, then you can build a lot of stuff relatively easy. And why I like to say relatively easy. Yeah, there are a bunch of policies around that you can use, but some statistics says that the average company they use 20 to 30 policies at all for all organization if they're well designed and put in a proper place, and 80% of things is covered. And when you start looking, you can build a lot of stuff, but always the most complex solution and most hardest solution are the most simplest solution that you will implement. So do not over engineer, do not overcomplicate. Use basics, and then probably you will drop down to, I don't know, 20%, uncover things that you can start doing over the time. So it's not that complex. If you want to, there are a lot of products around. One of the this gold standard is a enterprise policy scale that is kind of community product that works, but you can build that alone, so that is not that big problem. So if you're proficient and you don't want to go to that product to follow all standards from their side, you want to build something on your own, yeah, that's possible, but you just need to take care of everything. So I wouldn't say that is a big problem. It's time consuming to kick off that product. Doesn't matter if you use something or you will build something, treat that as a product. It's just time consuming to kick off. Then maintenance later is part of any kind of maintenance. But yeah, again, when we start back, go back to the landing zones and governance, when you build it properly, then it's easier to implement. If you start doing that in a very complex way, then it will be complex later.
Um, we have talked about the management and the money. So, which governance mistakes becomes the most expensive and long term from your perspective, and how can we settle or can settle to the sea level?
Uh, th- there are two things. If you do not set up on a governance, through the governance, if you do not define properly all of those landing zones, groups, management groups, and everything, and set up proper permissions, then you can easily get in situation that someone will have more permission than needed. If someone have more permission than needed, then you potentially have a quite a big problem. Doesn't mean yet that will happen. No, maybe I will have a full owner on tenant level and will do nothing, but uh, that is something that we definitely need to start avoiding as much as possible, because that is something that will also come before we start talking about governance and approach and whatever. There is something that comes from the mindset perspective and approach how we will do so. If we treat automation as a first class citizen, if we have a 4i principle, if we want to do and aiming to do everything through the code, then we do not need to have any kind of special access, special permission. So that is one level where if you do not plan that properly, we can be uh, more exposed and more vulnerable. And on the other side, if you do not prevent that access, then people will have certain level of access, and they will start building stuff.
Mm,
That is something that I remember that was almost 10 years ago when a friend of mine told me, no, no one can deploy anything. They will just fill a request, and when we approve, automation will take care and deploy. And that was company of 5,000 developers and just five Azure admins, engineers. And then question was, okay, but just five of you, you need to evaluate a lot of things, and how you can do that with there are 5,000 developers? And then he said, yeah, but if you have 5,000 developers and each developer deploy only one web app at that point that costs 50 euros monthly, then that will be 250,000 monthly for nothing.
mm,
So they will just fill request. We will evaluate. If that is approved, I will click button approved, and automation in the backend will pick up and deploy everything. So if you have that mindset that you should work in automated way, you have a 4i principle, which means all processes are there. So there is no any push from branches, only from the main, or a lot of things around. Then you can decrease enormously footprint and potential issues that you have. And when I talk right now, that sounds very easy. But when we come to the moment that we need to discuss about implementation, I didn't have any situation in my life that was smooth. That was always was very harsh from the different angles. Oh, implementation is very hard. Just give the guy access. He will need to fix that. Or they do not, engineering teams or ops teams or whoever doesn't have that level of knowledge. So you need to spend time to teach them, or a lot of things around. But all people will start noting, yeah, that is perfect, great, we will go that way. That's the fantastic, and so on. DevOps, DevSecOps, Dev whatever ops, everything is ops. Perfect on paper, but implementation, then we can see quite big issues in starting steps to implement something.
Okay. I think a little bit about uh I'm more in Power Platform and Power BI and so on. Engineer, and but sometimes is under engineer. How do you prevent to, yeah, or how do you balance governance to being over or under engineered?
It depends who you have on team. So that is the main point. You need to, in a certain extent, you need to collaborate with cybersecurity usually. So security, cybersecurity teams, they doesn't matter what is a name of those teams. But again, start with small steps. Start with the basics. And when you implement the basic stuff, a few days ago I spoke with friend from the Canada, and he told me, "Oh, I didn't find anywhere any kind of golden rule what to implement and where. So do you have any idea?" Okay, let's grab a paper and pen, and we will just draw right now. What you need: block public IP addresses, block big SKUs for virtual machines, and so on. That is very costly. Deploy this, deploy that, logs and everything. And we got the list of 10, 15 policies, and we actually covered more than 60% of important stuff in just 15 minutes on a paper, not implemented, of course. So if you start planning that is easy. But if you see, oh, this guy did very good stuff, so but I want to do that in a more complex way, because I'm seeing that for younger generation, especially, who want to do that something, and actually they're doing smart, they're knowledgeable, they know more languages than I knew at that time, and so on. But why complex? Why you're reinventing wheel if something already exists? So that is the point. You need to have, sounds maybe harsh, but you need to have experience.
Mm.
And there is one funny, it's not meme, it's not quote, like a small story, when one guy was interviewed, and they asked him, "Hey, how you got to that position in your life?" Yeah, two words. Which ones? Good decisions. Okay, but how you got to good decisions? One word. Okay, which one? Experience. Okay, but how you got experience? And he said two words. Which one? Bad decisions. So if you have that flow, yeah, you need to make mistakes. All of us are making mistakes. I like to say, uh, regular people make mistakes, but seniors make disasters. So I will not make small mistakes. When I make mistakes, that will affect a little bit broader audience. But yeah, you need to make mistakes, and you will learn best from mistakes. And if you have a good team that you can share your mistakes, then you will get uh, knowledge base of mistakes that you will not make anytime. Then that's called experience. We have experience. You're seeing that, and if we have experience, then we can make a good decisions. And that is sometimes why you will, when you hire someone who is uh, very expensive as a consultant and will provide to you with a solution relatively short, and that sounds how we couldn't get that one because you do not have experience. So that is quite a big difference. Maybe you have experience in the different field, but I have experience in this field, and amount of people that go through my classroom, probably no one from the C level will see in their life. And then I can evaluate people way faster than they can. And I prove that a lot of times. So experience will lead to good decisions, and good decisions will uh, save you from overcomplicating and over engineering decisions. So in every single, doesn't matter that is IT or plumbing or building house, the pretty same thing. Experience equal good decisions.
And I work more on productivity apps and Power Platform and Fabric, and I see a lot of companies. They do the simple things wrong or nothing, like a naming convention and targeting strategies. How important is it in Azure?
Naming convention, I think that is one of the super important stuff and a very well underrated in the designs. And I do not like, honestly, from the cuff, a naming convention that is kind of best practice. I really do not like. So I believe that if you have a proper naming convention, then you can automate things in a way better way. If you have standardized environments at the company I work right now, we have warehouses all around the world, and naming convention and workload. Actually, workload is standardized, is exactly the same. And due to good naming convention and good automation around, if you provide just four-letter acronym that belongs to site, we have full automation and full landing zone will be deployed completely. So it is very important. And tagging as well. Tagging is a little bit more complex topic to talk. Depends on how big environment is. Do you have a more different workloads? What you want to, how you want to tag? But yeah, those two things are part of the governance, actually, uh, underrated and very important uh, to build around all other stuff. So believe it or not, you can have a super good automation, super simple automation if you have a proper naming convention. And then if you have a proper naming convention that belongs to uh, deploying landing zones, then it literally changing one parameter file and uh, will trigger new deployment that will be exactly the same to the previous one. So quite important, but people need to understand that and need to build a proper
Mm,
naming convention.
mm. When we look little bit about, I think uh, uh, um, maturity models or something. Um, how made Yeah, how mature are companies today with Azure policies in your perspective?
I do not have that many experience with smaller companies, uh, but what I see and hear from the other MVPs, uh, usually are not uh, that mature. So still, all of the things are somehow connected. So I presented with on a conference with one of the topic was automation and was maturity scale of automation. So if you do everything through the portal, a lot of ClickUps stuff, yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do almost everything. But on a small scale, when you start getting bigger, then that is not sustainable that much, and then you'll start forgetting. And when you start implementing policies, then you cannot fix a lot of stuff. So that doesn't come directly from the technical. That's implementation. That comes from the idea. Because you cannot plan and build something that if you do not know that exists. So that's the point. So if you have a company who started with Azure, they didn't have Azure Architect. They started, oh, we know just something, we listen something, we saw Vlad on conference, blah, blah, blah. And they will start building. And 2 years later, they have workload that is 40,000 monthly, and no one planned that properly. So then you need to redesign and restructure everything. So maturity comes from the early decisions. Right? If you plan early on everything what you need, at least to build design properly, and then later you can assign a lot of stuff around, including policies, role-based access control, role custom roles, and everything what is needed. But yeah, companies or have overcomplicated, or they do have very small. Of course, there are a lot of companies that have that in a proper way, but that is not some kind of standard that we see.
Uh, I think also there it's when we talk or Microsoft when Microsoft has their keynotes there, it's especially when we talk about governance or yeah, security. There's one thing I think it's every time they say it 10 times, zero trust. Think you zero trust is still misunderstood?
Uh, no, but that's a way broader topic when we talk about uh, zero trust, and as many other things should be planned upfront with many other things. Uh, but that's not that big focus today, because today all focus is on AI. But zero trust definitely was 2 years ago. That was security, and zero trust was the two buzzwords that were on every single conference. But yeah, you need to plan that one. So we need to protect identities. We need to protect everything, because everything is evolving today.
Mm,
So if you live in a world where the thing that just blocking your IP address from connecting to a certain service will save you, uh, you're already way behind,
mm,
because that is the easiest way to manipulate if someone want to hack you. But o- if also if we even if we have full MFA and everything, all things around, a lot of things can be hacked. The question is, are you interested? Do you have something interesting for hackers or not? So everything is possible. I had a discussion recently for the some fabric project, and that was okay. How we can share that? Yeah, if you ask me if that is possible to be misused, yeah, of course. But the question is how we will decrease that footprint and vulnerability. Yeah, everything is possible, but we are doing the best thing to minimize everything to have that in place. So
mm.
zero trust, identity, private endpoints, a lot of rules and everything wrong. But still, one wrong click somewhere, and one very disappointed employee who has some access can make a quite disaster. Which I had one time once as a case in my career. That one disappointed employee will start making a lot of not that smart moves.
Yeah, you are say the actually buzzword is AI. Has AI an impact on Azure, especially when we talk at yeah, governance at scale?
Uh, Not directly. There is no answer yes or no. So AI is definitely part of everything today. It's part of Azure. Can help you. There is a Copilot. There is a Claude. There is an OpenAI. No, Anthropic. So when you put everything in a mix, yeah, you can have quite a good thing. You can have quite a bad thing. So that's okay. Can help you. It's evolving. All is good, except one thing. If you're not knowledgeable and experienced, and you cannot validate what is proposed by AI, how you know that that is a good or bad thing? So that is the point. There is can help you a lot, can help you with some ideas sometimes, something that probably you will get on a time, but if you cannot validate, how you can prove that that is a good solution? There are a lot of memes right now. Yeah, you can get that mushroom, and then next picture, yeah, sorry, that mushroom was poison. But do you have any other questions about mushrooms?
Mm,
Something like that. If you can validate, if you have knowledge, certain level of knowledge and experience, then you can benefit a lot. If you do not have, then it's a little bit tricky. Depends on what level of help we need from AI. Can help you, probably can do a lot of automation for you around that you can just deploy. But I would be very cautious with those kind of things. Uh, I am, but will be uh, even more in the future because I heard a lot of very scaring stories how people gave access to AI, to MCP service, and so on, and they misunderstood and misinterpret request, which was not so clear, and then they were start making mistakes and cleaning up stuff and so on. So yeah, it's there, can help us, but we need to understand actually what is there.
mm. It's I I think it's more risky there to use AI instead of, I don't know, I create an app or something, uh, then okay, the app could be shit, but it doesn't destroy the whole infrastructure. I think when I do there something wrong, I have seen it's I think Copilot for security product, but I only have see a dashboard for this. I don't know what's if this was the right name. Um, so there's something I think when we will get money from the management, some topic is fine ops. And there's a tool, the cost management tool from Azure. Um, I never can use it because I have educational licenses. It's not working with it. Uh, what or how can we use this data to, yeah, sell governance?
Uh, for what exactly you mean? For the cost?
Yeah. Can we find, yeah, I think gaps, I don't know, unused license or running machines with low workload or something?
Yeah, that is a pure cost management thingy. So the governance cannot help us that much. That much in that because governance is way more above than cost. Can help you to settle all cost decisions properly, but not on that scale. That's, for instance, something that where AI can help you a lot. So if you have agent today that you can build inside your environment, that you can give read access to billing or whatever, uh, that can pull data and analyze and everything, that is something that then you can get uh, insight of what is not aligned. If we take look back a couple of years, so, and still exists, of course, but that is similar to what Azure Advisor will tell you. Oh, you have unused VM or whatever, or underutilized or overutilized or something like that. But that is, for instance, something if you build your local agent inside of your environment in Foundry or what, whenever has some kind of can pull data, can analyze and present in some dashboard, or even you can have chat with the agent and so on. So that is where AI can be very, very, very beneficial for all the levels inside of a company that you do not need to go deeper to search. If you before AI, you had to build a lot of your own dashboards to work on that. But right now, that can be beneficial. But governance doesn't have any direct relationship with that digging into cost. Can guide us a little, provide us some guardrails, how we can do that and what we should do. But if we already slipped out from the certain scales, no, not that much.
I have for 3 weeks, I have seen the new Azure tool map. and there are actually 1,100 plus different tools in the Azure cloud. Uh, is it becoming too complex, Azure?
Chat, uh, not all of those services that we have there are that relevant for every workload.
Mm.
It is evolving. Yes, you need to pay attention to that. You need to be completely aligned with everything. What is there? What is building? What is new features and everything, which is pretty hard sometimes. But I wouldn't say that is getting right now that fast. Yeah, it's evolving, and certain areas are getting bigger with more services very fast and so on. But if you are in, let's say, networking part, yeah, things are not that fast like probably in AI. It's really depends because Azure is very broad. You can say yes, I'm an Azure architect, and someone will ask me to design Fabric and those kind of things, which is not. I have no
Oh.
idea about that much. So that is very broad. You need to narrow down a little bit. So actually, my specialization is infrastructure, networking, and those kind of parts, hybrid. I will never touch data design, data things, power platform, AI on that level. Yeah, that is rough on a top, but not a deep dive because you cannot be expert for everything. So that's point. You cannot be expert for everything. If you are expert for everything, you're actually expert for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need people expert in a special topic, but we also need people they have an overview of errors. Uh, so I see often there it's they build here something and then they build there something and they don't bring it together and they often I think processes are the same. They took data from the same place in different services, and I think a little bit overview isn't so bad. Um, but I think you are not a specialist. You cannot be a specialist in everything. Uh, yeah. Uh,
Yeah, we call it that as a T-shape engineer.
mm,
So if you have reverse T letter, so you have width, so you have broader knowledge for a lot of topics, but then you have specialization in one or more field. Depends on. So if you have a very broad knowledge and you do not have deep knowledge for anything, so yep, you can cover a lot of stuff, but very easily you'll hit a level of what you can do and where that will go over the fence where your knowledge is. But if you have only uh, very narrow specialization to one thing, yeah, that's good. So then you're a real expert, but then you do not see things around.
mm,
But if you're a T-shaped engineer, then you have broad knowledge, you understand stuff around, but then you're expert in a certain field. And then you can understand whole picture. So I understand how work network, how work on-prem network, how work hybrid, how work everything around, how work Linux, and those kind of things. But I can set up a lot of stuff up to the certain level. But above a certain level, then I need expert there. And that is very helpful when you have a team of T-shaped engineers, where you have few of them, then they're quite often very complementary, work together, and they can fix. For instance, 4 T-shape engineers can do more than 20 just regular engineers because I will not wait for you to fix some small stuff for me because I understand that I can do that
mm,
and I will move forward. If you have silos and you have completely separated teams, then sometimes you will wait some 1, 2 days that something will be unlocked that you can continue
mm.
your your work. So yeah.
When we think about security governance topic, I found in Azure there is so many tools for it. Yeah, it starts from identity and access security, entry ID, and it said I don't know how many modules. Then we have threat protection. I think there's a defender for nearly everything. you have CM, the Sentinel, and Azure Monitor, and network security, data protection. Is it, yeah, it's, did you think all these single tools should become one big tool, or m- makes it sense that there's so many tools for governance and security in Azure?
Security is enormous topic.
Mm.
And 10 years ago, we were in a position, yeah, we were split it up. Then we got renewed Azure in 2014 and move forward with our model. And we say, yeah, okay, I can work with all things around. One guy is guy for Azure. Right now, we are back a few years back. We are right now in a position where you cannot be one stop shop for Azure. You can for small environment, but if you have a big environment, security is full-time job. Governance, full-time job. Maybe not 10 years, full-time job, depends on, but identity, the pretty same thing. Yesterday, I had a discussion with a colleague. Where belongs identity and who need to take care of identity? Azure team or modern workplace team, M365 team? Because no, identity is on the top of everything. Identity is enabler, so you cannot have Azure without Entra ID. You cannot have 365 with Entra ID. They use different, maybe different identities, more users and so on, but we use more service and service principals and managed identities. So it's very big topic and how to secure identity, how to everything. So if you want to do that in a proper way, then you need to have 2 to 3 architects in a company only for identity, governance, and security. It's quite big. So that is when people say, "Yeah, we can fix that." We can, no problem. But it's not about fixing. You need to manage that. You need to maintain it. You need to have a proper decisions. So then, what I saw in the past very often, and also today, I'm seeing that default setup of M365 tenant allows any people to create teams.
Mm.
If they can create teams, then in the back end will be created SharePoint, a lot of stuff. If you do not have proper naming convention, you will in a few months end up with a lot of stuff that you do not understand who created why, what is there, what kind of data. And if on the top of that we add a little bit of data policies, data loss prevention, and those kind of things, then things are even more complex. So lot of things in a Microsoft cloud ecosystem that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you cannot go without proper knowledge, understanding, and right people in the right position.
Awesome, yeah. So now, I have in every show, I have a part where I have friends to find out some quotes from guys in topic, and yeah, I read the quote, and you say what comes in your mind when you hear this. The first one is technology change fast, principles age slowly.
Uh, that is definitely true. And what we're seeing that different areas of technology are going in a different pace forward. So right now we have enormous pace on AI, but all other stuff are a little bit slower. But definitely, principles are not going that fast. That is true.
Um, Complexity is easy, simplicity is earned.
That is what I mentioned today. So the most effective and the best solution is always the simplest solution, which is not that hard to make.
Every cloud environment reflects the decisions of its people.
I can agree with that. And
Okay.
then when you meet those people, then you can find out how to correlate who made it, what decision.
The best architect's design for the people who operate the system later.
Uh, it could be, but uh, if you want to design that for people who will use later, then you need to have your had your path that you was in their boots. If you never operate and work in operation, you don't know what they need. I like today to sit down with the team from the operations and ask, okay, I think this is a good decision, but what do you think about that? Is that okay? Why? You need to manage that tomorrow. If you think that is out of scope, let's think about a little bit differently. If that is too complex for you or you don't know how to manage, let's talk about that. But yeah, I do not see that oftenly, but is it's completely true.
Okay. So Anna, thank you for the answers. This was a really nice session. But my last question is: when people listen to this episode, I think years from now, what's the one idea or mindset you hope stays with them?
Definitely, one thing that will never change is that you need to start build with a plan. So that was the same 20 years ago, and probably will be 20 years upfront. So you need, and that is again correlated with bad decisions, experience, and good decisions. But if you have experience, if you know you will buy experience,
Yep.
actually you cannot buy experience. You will hire someone with experience who can teach you. But start building things with a plan. If you start building without plan, that is not long term sustainable. Can be sustainable in a very short term. If you know, yeah, we will buy it or use that one thing for a short term, and then we will move. But unfortunately, in a lot of cases, test suddenly becomes production, and then I'm not fan of that doing things in a for a very short time frame. So plan like you will be I don't know, a Fortune 50 company, even you're starting as a startup, because those decisions later can help you enormously.
Yeah, then I say thank you, Vladimir. This was an awesome session,
Welcome.
and I think in the show notes they find all the information about you and can contact you on LinkedIn and so on. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you as well for having me on this podcast. It was nice to talk to you too.